Hello and welcome to episode 63 of the Ginger and the Beard podcast. I'm AJ, aka the Ginger.
And I'm Reese, aka the Beard.
Today we are joined by Allan, aka Al the Brewer, to talk about all things craft beer and to learn more about his podcast, I Know Nothing About Beer. Thanks for joining us, Allan. How's it going, man?
Guys, doing so good. Having a great time. It is nice just to be sitting behind the mic and not being like a host. I like being a guest. That's the easy part. It's fun. It's just like, come on and chat. Let's do it.
Exactly.
Heck yeah, definitely. Yeah. So before we get into this, we want to give a quick reminder to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and come hang out with us in our Discord server, freshly minted, I guess you could say. You can find all the links in the description for this episode. All right, guys, let's get into this. Where do we start? Right? I guess. What are you guys drinking right now?
That's a fantastic question. So I have something I've never had before, Ever Clever. It's a double dry hopped. You know, you got to get that good buzzword, double dry hopped in there.
From DDH.
From Bearded Iris Brewing Company in Nashville, Tennessee, which I've never actually heard of before, but I picked this up at Total Wine. And I've had a few sips. It's quite tasty. What about you?
Well, hold on. What is a Bearded Iris, real quick?
You know, I don't know. Isn't iris like it's in your eyeball?
Yeah, it's like the colorful part.
I think it's also a flower.
Is it?
Actually, an iris or a bearded iris?
I think an iris is a flower. Am I wrong?
I have no idea.
Feel like I've seen an iris, there is Google we can ask, but I think it sounds better when you say it with confidence. Oh, bearded iris. Yeah.
It's a flower.
A flower local to native Southern Tennessee. Don't you know that? Come on now.
It looks like an orchid, right?
It looks like an orchid. Yeah. Yeah.
You are correct. It is a flower.
It's so convincing, even if it's not real. I'm gonna go out and tell people that it is.
Okay, so
I was
a bearded
an educator
iris
for a while, so
actually...
you just tell people something with confidence, they'll believe you. You just go, "Oh no, yeah, it's that." Oh, okay, cool.
All right.
A bearded iris it's technically a plant, but it looks like a flower. So, but anyway,
can you smoke it? No.
I'm sure you can. Sure you can.
Sorry, my bad. Hold on. Is that legal yet?
Okay.
Oh man. So I have I'm not sure which of these two to drink, okay? So I haven't had either of them. I'm gonna drink both of them. Which one should I start with? This is a barley wine bottle shop series from Founders that's like tipping their hat towards the craft brewers that really started it all, is kind of what this beer is meant for. And then this beer, Buena, I don't know what Buena Vista is, but it's a
view, maybe?
No, that's Buena Vista. This is Buena, maybe Buena Vista?
Buena Vesa.
Vesa? I don't know, but it's a lager with salt and lime added. I think I'm going to start with this because this is like
that. Yeah, I would end on the barley wine.
This will put me to sleep.
You have the barley wine first.
Yeah.
This is going to be like water.
To like lime, you're going to be like, what just happened? You know?
Yeah.
All right, that could be a terrible transition.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, we're going to go with the Buena Vesa. How about you, Al?
I am drinking local favorite of mine from Turning Point. This is Bach Street Boys.
Oh, nice.
And this is one of their Bachs. Bach lager, always fun. I'm a sucker for anything lager, especially now since like everything is so tropical fruit hoppy, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just kind of get a little overwhelmed by the tropical fruit hop. So generally if I see lagers on, I'll probably try to get those first.
Nice. Yeah, I feel like lager is, interestingly for me, like lagers, and I want to get into this with you also, Al, because I'm curious. Like, I feel like one of the things we love to talk to people about is like how you get into craft brewing or craft beer in general, like becoming a enjoyer of craft beer. But lager is like my like introduction into like craft beer, specifically Vienna lager from Devil's Backbone.
Oh, okay.
Even though now I guess you could say not craft, considering they're owned by Anheuser-Busch, but that's a nice color there, Reese.
Very nice. Oh, hey. Don't switch.
There we go. But yeah, I've kind of like abandoned lagers in a way. Like I've turned pretty heavily into the IPAs. Lots of stouts this past winter, and porters and things like that. But I need to get back to that side of the world. I feel like into the more malty sort of characteristics.
I dig me the family of lager beers is so versatile. Whereas I feel right now, I'll say this: I don't know how long you have been drinking craft beer. I've been at least 10, 12, 13, maybe 14 years into this. And
I thought you were gonna say like 13 years old. I was like, whoa, hey, this guy's going hard.
Yes, I am 21. Let me tell you.
That's funny.
No, I've been into the craft beer over 10 years, and especially starting off in California when it was this wave of West Coast IPA, and everybody was making West Coast, and that's all you could find.
Yeah.
And then everything was like get more bitter, more angry, bitter beer. And that was really fun. But then I was just like, I'm kind of done. And then what else is there to explore? That's when I found Saisons, and that is still my favorite style. That's when I started to find just explore out the palate a little bit. And I feel like with all the tropical fruity IPAs, one, it's hard for me just to keep drinking something that I could buy at the store. Like if I want orange juice, I will buy it at the store. Like I love these, and they're really good, and it's really fun to see how they get expressed. Because it's difficult to make a beer that tastes so much like an orange. Like it's not like the easiest, it's not the hardest thing in the world to do with the beer, but it's not the easiest thing either. So to make a beer do that is challenging in and of itself. It also doesn't mean that I want to have that 5 times over in a flight.
Right.
So I love lagers because they offer such a varied style. I love that everything supports well. The yeast, the malt, and the hops all support each other really nicely. And generally you have more of a bready, the malty characters come out. But if you don't have that bitterness in the, and I do mean bitterness from the hops, then things just kind of fall apart. So I really love exploring lagers, and especially ones that I haven't had or a style I know and haven't had it from a brewery before.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can concur with that. I feel like honestly, I'm part of like these craft beer pages on Facebook, and it's like I feel like there's this revolt happening with IPAs. Like there's this almost like rising up of like people bashing IPAs now, and like I literally just today saw a meme that was like a ripoff of a comic from back in the day or something. It was like this picture. I don't know. Maybe it's a famous comic. I don't know anything about comic strips, but it's like these 2 dogs, and there's this lady opening a can of dog food, pouring it into a bowl, and it's like I think the original comic probably said, "Oh yay, more dog food" or something like you feed your dog the same thing every day. And somebody had modified the comic strip to say, "Oh yay, another IPA" or something like that. It's just weird. It's like I feel like I'm watching it happen right now. People are like turning against the IPAs, or they've just had enough of it. Like you're saying, they've kind of it's saturated at this point. But then Reese, like you,
I was just gonna say
getting into it, right?
This is so absurd for me to hear because like from the start I've not been a fan of IPAs. I've never had the taste for them, and so the fact that like everybody's kind of going away from them now, it's like, hey, this is great. Yeah, let's get some. Let's get some
breathing room.
Yeah, show me some more stouts, some more get some crazy stuff going. Barley wines. I don't see those enough. I was excited to see this one today, but but oddly enough, I am actually trying to drink more IPAs now. Like this past month, I've just been drinking more and more of them.
Now, I want to ask, like, what about IPAs? What is it in an IPA that you don't like? And also, there's IPA is very varied as well because you have your classic West Coast, to your maltier ones, to your more tropical fruity ones. Is there one that you really don't like? Is there one that is like of those that I don't like, this is the one I can drink?
Well, it's really, this is really odd for me actually, because like when I drink coffee, right, like I love it extremely bitter. Like the more bitter the coffee, darker, the more I like it. But when it comes to beer, like if it's above 15 IBUs, like 20 IBUs is stretching it. Like I'm like I can't get down with this for some reason. Yeah. It's not friendly with my palate for some reason.
Gotcha.
But I'm getting there actually, which is weird. I've been drinking Terrapin all week, and they had a bunch of different ones, and I don't know. I didn't even look at what the Terrapin, what the IPUs. I actually drank this earlier, Hopsecutioner, and
nice.
It was good. It was easy. I feel like I don't know. Maybe something's clicking for me. Maybe like how like every 7 years like everything changes in your body. Like you ever heard that?
I have not, but please enlighten.
Yeah, supposedly like every 7 years, like the cells in your body that you had 7 years ago, you won't have one again because they've all transferred out. You've been
doing the same thing. Your
yeah.
body is new, but it's still doing the same thing, hopefully.
But at like a molecular, I don't know, molecular
cellular
level. At a cellular level, like you're completely different than what you were 7 years ago, per se. So maybe like as my cells were transitioning out, I made some more, and they were like, we like IPAs. Sure.
I think it's also just it could just be you going like, I'm just going to keep trying and just see where it lands. Like I might find one. Like I would say like really hoppy crisp lagers would be a really fun place to be. Yep. Especially if you start to do like the IPLs, the Imperial Pale Lagers. Those can be really fun because they're bitter enough that they have a little extra backbone to them. But they would be a good like transition, I would say, for you.
I think so, because like I used to not like porters as much either, right? And I've started to like porters more. But I think with anything that you're not used to, or at least for me, like there's a barrier to entry, like with sours, with like real sours, not gozas or anything like that. There was a barrier to entry, and I had to pay that fee to get through. And now when I drink a sour, I'm like, this is great, but somebody else might try it and say, how could you enjoy this?
So I will say this. I do believe that gozas are sours. They do have a souring component. They are not generally like the same type of I think sours have like they go from like, wow, did I just lick a battery, to oh, that was fun and kind of fruity and like, oh yay, this is a great poolside, refreshing. Yep. I remember my buddy bought a bottle of Russian River. It was a long time ago. It was one of the big wine bottle sizes. I believe it was Temptation. And it was my first sour ever. And we all took a little, shot of it, a glass of it, and we all sipped it. And I was like, this is horrible. How much did you pay for this? I'm sorry. Like it tasted like someone put pineapple juice with a shot of vodka and rotted it. Now it's one of my favorites. I mean, if I were to find a bottle of that again, I would, dive into that quick.
Yeah, the sours, they've been tough for me. Like I said, the stouts and the porters, that was my entire fall and winter experience. Like that's what I focused on primarily. And
I was pushing him.
Yeah,
drink these.
Drink these. He was encouraging me along my path, But I found some stuff that I was kind of sad to. Not that I can't drink a stout or a porter in the springtime. It just doesn't feel right. Like it just doesn't feel as good as it does when it's cold outside or by the fire or something, But the sours are still, it's a hard sell. I've had a few like of the gozas, like the who is it that makes the wheels goes around?
New Rome?
No, wheel goes. Dang, it's not coming to me right now. But anyways, that's a pretty easy entry into it. I had there's a local brewery called Farmhouse that made one that was like a Ric Flair themed strawberry goza. It was super good. But yeah, the real sour stuff, like those Farmhouse, what are they called?
Love them.
Yeah. Farmhouse.
The horse blanket with the Brettanomyces. Oh, it's so good. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think you Reese had one on the show not long ago, and you're just like, you're like, even for me, this is like next level.
It was the Brewery Tarot series, but it had been sitting for a while, so I think that might have kind of it didn't go bad, but it definitely had a little bit of extra kick on it, I feel like.
Oh man, I'm trying to Upland. Do you guys know Upland Brewing?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
I believe they're from the Midwest, and I was having a bottle share with a bunch of buddies. I leaving California, moving to Texas, where I am now, and was doing a last bottle share with my buddies from a shop that I worked at, and then some other friends. And my buddy had traded for this kiwi upland sour because he had heard it was the most sour beer that you could get. It was just the most acidic. And so we all took a little sip. So good. I mean, just so good. But I lost the enamel on my teeth, and I was like, oh, and we all made the same face. And then, my wife was, we did this at my apartment, and my wife was like watching Gilmore Girls or something in the next room. Like, she's not, no, I'm not hanging out with you guys. And so I don't blame her. And then we're like, oh, let's get Kelly to try it, because we're all just a little more than buzzed at this point. Oh, yeah. So I'm like, babe, come out here, try this beer. And she just tries it and is like, oh, that was nice. And all of us are like, man card, here you go.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, my wife, we went on our honeymoon in Iceland, and we went to this place and asked for a recommendation, and they poured, I can't remember, it had like a big number 3 on the side of it. It was one of the more popular sours that are like, anyway, I can't remember the name of it. They poured it out, and like, my wife had never had a sour before. I had at least had some of them, and I took a sip, and I was like, ooh, I wasn't ready for it yet. Like, it was probably the most acidic and sour beer I've ever had. And she was like, oh, I love it. And ever since then, I don't know what it is, man. They just...
Yeah. My wife, same deal. She can just... the most sour beer I've had, she's like, oh, yeah, this is fun. No problem.
I've tried getting Shayna into, like... I would love for her to get into craft beers, because it's like a huge passion of mine. And like, we go to all these, we have so many breweries around here, but fortunately a lot of them also carry ciders, because she's all about the ciders. And I'm like, I'm telling you, like, you would be into this Goza or this sour or whatever. Like, this would be the place for you to start, because you could definitely work your way in from there. And I just can't get her to commit to it. But yeah, I think they just have a different palate, I guess. But I mean, there's plenty of women out there that love a good IPA as well. So
there's women out there that chew tobacco too. So
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah. So, but I mean, you said you've been into craft beer for 10 plus years at this point. So what's your, like, when and how did you get into craft beer, Allan?
So I didn't really drink in college. It wasn't just my deal. I mean, my 21st birthday, I went out to BJ's and had a flight and was like, all right, that's cool. I'm done. And it just wasn't my jam. Then I'd just come back. I was a missionary in China for about a year and a half. I came back and invited my buddy out to a place to go, this wine bar that I had heard about. And he met me at the wine bar. And I remember we were just sitting back and knew nothing. And so we're just like, hey, just pour us a couple beers. So the guy started pouring us beers, and I was like, oh, these are fun. What is this? What is this? And just trying different things. And then the manager was there, and he overheard us talking, because we were both play guitar. And he's like, hey, and he gives us a beer, and he's like, if you want free ones of these, come back here next week and play guitar, and I'll give you free beer. And when you're 23 and someone says, do you want free beer? Play the guitar. It's like, oh, yeah. So I started off playing at this place. It's long gone now, Vindipays. And I would play on Friday nights, at least once a month, if not more, for about almost 2 years. And I would just get a pick of whatever I wanted off the shelf. My first IPA was Pliny the Elder. And it was like, oh, nice. Oh, these are fun. I like this. And then my second IPA was Old Gubna, from the people that make Dale's Pale Ale.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Ozark Brewing or whatever it is.
Oscars.
Thank you. Oscars Brewing, and Old Chub or whatever it's called. It's a green can. Yeah. And I remember drinking that and going like, why did a pine cone die in my beer?
Yeah, my buddy's been trying to get me to find that one, or he tries to find it all the time. It's hard to get around here.
And so I started to find out that, wow, beer is much larger than what I'd grown up thinking it was. And it was really just that like 2 years of just going, hey, I'm going to try this bottle now, and I'm going to try this bottle. So I'd have 2 or 3 bottles in a night, and I'd play for 4 hours. So it was a lot of fun. at the same time, I was going to this church, and this elder there was like, dude, I heard you like beer. I'm like, yeah. He's like, do you want to brew it? I'm like, yeah. So I started brewing with this elder of mine, Tom Black. He's a great guy. We're still good friends. And we made our first beer. I made a cream ale, and I was hooked. I was like, this is fun. And really, as I started to learn more about brewing, and then learning more about beer, the more I found out that I feel like there's that you fall into things that are just, you find a knack for it, you know. I say this a bit, this is why my podcast is called this. You know, I find that the more I learn about beer, the more I find out I know nothing about it.
Yeah.
That's part of why I have my podcast. I know nothing about beer because it's a passion. It's like the more I go down this rabbit hole, the more I talk to people about what they do in beer, the more I'm like, wow, that is something I did not know. And there's so much more to learn about this. Because I feel like if something's not a passion for you, go, oh, that's how it's done. Cool. If it's a passion for you, then you're like, oh, that's how it's done. What's the machine that does this? How does that made? You know, where did the pieces come from? And for me, that really started to culminate as I got to know more about beer and then wanted to be into beer professionally. I got a job working at a place called Wade's Wines, which is still around, slinging beers behind the bar. They had 103 beers on tap and 32 wines on tap. Oh, it was great. And that's where I kind of really learned how to really cut my teeth on craft beer, because at night, what we would all do is hang around and just, take the little 5-ounce, sippers. And we wouldn't have a lot, but it would be like, all right, well, what do you want to try tonight? And so 103 beers, at your beck and call, and just go, okay, well, let me give number 15. And I was a new guy, and I still love doing this. I still love serving people beer and making drinks and things like that. So I was the one, serving all the servers at the end of the night and just having a good time doing that. After that, kind of got here to Texas, did a couple things, nothing really worked out. Started working for the man. Now I'm a stay-at-home dad, but I'm definitely beer is still something that I've carried a passion for since then. I'm never too far from trying to read something, learn something, watch something, drink something that makes me go, I want to learn more about this.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I think my how I got into craft beer was also working at a restaurant. Didn't have 100 and some taps, but we had probably close to 10, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And the owner of the restaurant was all about craft beer. I think I started working there when I was 20 when I started working there, and then I turned 21.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is in college, and I'm like trying to figure out what do I like. I mean, obviously at that point I've had the Natty Lights, the Bud Lights, Budweisers, whatever is at the house parties, but working there, and he was all about craft beer. And so I actually had some St. George, I think it was a stout or something. We interviewed the head brewer from St. George here in Hampton not long ago. And he had a bunch of other stuff. I can't even remember at this point what he would have on there, but at the end of a shift or whatever, or on off days, I'd come in and sit at the bar and have some beers. And that's kind of what kickstarted my interest in it. But it never really picked up until a couple years before we started this podcast. I would say I never drank beer that often, but then I started buying it and trying new stuff. And like you said, it was just a curious, wow, okay, this tastes so much better. There's just so much more to be discovered here. Let me continue to try things. And I tried IPAs early on, and I was like, that's disgusting. Who wants to drink this? It's so bitter. It's gross. But you acquire a taste for it. So like you said, it's just fun to learn what goes into it.
Yeah. And I feel like we've both been trying to just grow our interest as we've started this podcast. You and I have both just been well, what have we never tried before? And we've just well, I know personally myself, and I'm pretty sure you have started looking at beer in a different way as well. I got into it because my brother, who's a couple years older than me, was an enthusiast, and he turned 21 and was moved down to Florida, and that was around 2004 when this whole craft beer thing really, I think, started to explode in the United States. Was back around that time frame. I don't know exactly when, but I remember drinking like a Blue Moon and being like, oh, this is crazy. This isn't a Budweiser? Like, there's more than just Bud Light, Budweiser, and Busch. Like, there's other beer out there.
Yeah.
And and then, you know, as the years go on, you know, more and more breweries kept coming out and, you know, kept trying new things. And then you start to learn that there's like beer overseas. There's beer in Belgium that's like insane that you wouldn't can't even get over here. And then Trappist, you know, beer started coming over, and that's I feel like Trappist is really where it got me. Like I kind of that's when I like really piqued my interest. Okay, there's something going on here. And then even more than that is AJ, you approaching me about the podcast and just, you know, figuring out what do we like and how are we gonna break these beers down. And then it's just expanded now into, well, I really don't know anything about beer, so let's just start interviewing people that know about beer.
Yeah.
You know, I thought yeast was a bacteria. You know,
Turns out.
It's a fungus. I had no idea.
Yeah.
You know, so
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean sorry, go ahead.
And we even took our first stab at brewing this year.
Oh, cool.
AJ mentioned it to me. I can't remember when, but like his birthday was coming up, and so he mentioned it to me. I kept it in the back of my mind, and then like on the week of his birthday, we had a podcast, and I communicated with his wife. He had no idea. So like on the podcast, which at the time was live, we were doing like Twitch stuff.
Gotcha.
She just puts a box like left of screen, just kind of slides it in. And it was, you know, one of those like $40, $30 craft brew kits. And so, gave that a go. It went okay.
All right.
I still have a couple of them. Just
okay. It generally, like your first couple of brews, you're like, I made beer, I'm drinking it, and I like it. Like that's generally. I was talking to a podcast episode. It hasn't released yet, so I don't want to say too much about it in case something happens or whatnot. But I was talking to this guy, and he was saying how he was home brewer, and he goes, you know, I started getting people going like, man, yeah, do you have any more homebrew? And I'm like, that's such a great threshold to pass, because I've been a home brewer like 10 years, and it took a while until people were like, do you have more of that?
Yeah.
Because the first couple times you do it, maybe the first while that you're doing it, that you may not have people going, do you have more of that beer that you made?
Yeah.
At this point, I think they would have given it back to me.
Or just secretly take it like, it's like that sweater your like aunt
really
whoever
good.
like knits for you. You're like, I love that sweater.
Now, what I do love is that my brother-in-law is a big home brewer, and he makes some great beers. And so it's always fun when I go over to my sister and brother-in-law's house, because he has beer on tap every time I go. And it's so much fun because he makes some great beers. Yeah.
I had a guy. I knew a guy once who made a. I think it was a gingerbread stout or it was a pumpkin stout. It was like something like that. But he would make it every year, and he was all about home brewing. Like he had books about it. He like would look at the science. He was also like a really smart guy. Like I think he's a doctor now. But anyways, like he was like all about the science of it and knew all the specific measurements and stuff. But I think he made it wasn't pumpkin, it wasn't gingerbread. What was it? Maybe it was gingerbread. I don't know. But anyways, he would have people come to him each year, and like he would share it out to all his friends or whatever. But the brew that we did, I think both of us, you know, being the noobs that we were, I mean, the process was super fun. The experience was great.
Yeah.
The beer, the first one we opened, I think both of us, I had an IPA. You had what was it? Yours a stout, Reese? Yeah, yours, both of them were terrible. So we're like, all right. And it says in the booklet, it's like, hey, if it doesn't taste good, let it sit a little longer, let it age some more. And we're like, all right, let's try that. So we both did the same thing. Like 2 more weeks went by. We tried them again. It's like, okay, this is actually passable now. Yeah. Now it's been like, well, at this point, man, it's been like, I don't know, 9 months or something since that. My math's not super good, but that was back in September. So the IPAs I have left, now I have like 2 left. I tried one like a few weeks ago. It was garbage. It's so bad. Man. It's lost all of its character. Your stout, maybe your stout's aging well. I don't know, but
I got one left.
On the stout?
It was supposed to be 8. and I don't know what it ended up at, but it's supposed to be 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a general rule of once something's at about 10 to 12%, I will allow it a year in my cellar. But unless it's at about that, I don't generally give it more than a year. You
Okay.
know, I love the brewery out in Anaheim. I've been
Soda
drinking their beer
Trees.
since they opened up,
Love
and
it, dude.
I've got Black Tuesdays from 2013.
I'm so jealous. You still have them?
Wow.
I was gifted the 2013, and then
Wow.
I've had the 2014 on. And I
That's
have a
crazy.
bottle for each of my daughters for when they turn 21. Not
No
for
way.
them, but for me to drink to say, wow, you made it to 21. I'm going to celebrate this now. I will drink it in front of them and go, do you want a sip? Because this is really expensive. So I'll give you a little bit, but this is really my beer. It's more like my accomplishment that I got you to 21, you know,
Exactly.
that you're living to this point in time. But I'm patient, and so I have beers in there that I'm just like, all right, cool. Let's see what happens in 5 to 7 years on this one.
And your kids are young too, right? Looking at your Instagram page, I think they're fairly young, right?
Yeah, my youngest just turned 2 this past last month, and my oldest will turn 5 in June.
Okay,
So
awesome. Yeah, I've got kids like the exact same age, but
okay,
so that's a long time to wait, man. That's some serious patience. Like I got
dude,
the 120-minute style. There's one of the girls that I work with.
yeah,
Her family lives really close to not Dogfish Head.
Mhm.
Man, is it Dogfish
Yeah,
Head?
Dogfish.
Man, I'm like just my brain is just not working right now. But yeah, so she picked some up for me and brought it, and I was like, I should age one of these. I should pick one of these and age it.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, it's so good though. Like it's just so good, and I ended up drinking all 4 of them out of the pack.
Oh,
So
dude, I can't do them fresh. Way too sweet. It's just
yeah,
so sweet. Everything is competing for your attention when they're really young. They're really fresh. I've had 120 and I think about 3 years out, and I'm like,
nice.
okay, this could have used another 2 or 3 years
Wow,
before,
man.
because everything is still it's when it's when it's a beer like that, you know. And I know it says it's an IPA. It's more like a barley wine at that
Yeah,
point in time. But when it's a beer like that and you have so much going on, I compare it to like a band that's not mixed well, you know? It's like, you know, I can dig some metal, but a lot of metal, it just kind of grates me after a couple of songs because all I'm hearing is someone scream, and then I'm hearing a guitar. I love the guitar, but I'm like, I'm not able to put them all together,
yeah,
you know? Whereas when you let a beer age, when you let it like settle, all those things calm down and they mix better, you know. The alcohol, that burn, it calms, and that allows for the malty notes that come up, the yeasty esters that they've got them in there. The hops should degrade and be gone, because hops generally in, you know, well, the 120, it's made with so much hops, but those will calm down a bit too. And then you just have a much more balanced beer, and you're actually going like, oh wow, so that's what I'm tasting now out of this. Because I've had Black Tuesday. I went to the brewery has a their Black Tuesday party. I got to go to one of those, and I got to go with one of the guys. There's 3 levels of, like, you know, of club members. There's preserve, the reserve, preserve, and hoarders. I'm the middle tier, and I got to go with like the highest tier, the hoarders. And he was giving me some of the samples that they were handing out as well. And one of the things I got to try was that year's fresh Black Tuesday, and it was like, I'm like, I've got diabetes now. It's so sugary and abrasive and just. And then I got to try a 5-year aged uh, Black Tuesday. And I was like, oh, this is nice, you know. So any chance that I get to like let something that'll sit, especially Black Tuesday, because it's like 19.9% minimum, or 19 point, I think the lowest one is 18.5, 18.9. Something like that will age really well because of all that alcohol. You know, you
Yep.
can either age something because of the alcohol or because of the yeast involved. But generally anything under 10%, I wouldn't give it more than a year unless it's like a sour that's meant to be that's meant to degrade in a good way.
Yeah, I'm waiting for them because like right now, all I ever see around here anymore. Back in I think it was 2017, they did a Black Tuesday release. A small batch of it was sent out to DC. I'm about 40 minutes out from DC,
Yeah.
and the brewery actually has a location in DC. But they didn't do the release at that location. They released it at a place called Church Key, which if you're ever in DC, go check out Church Key. They have a great selection. Just make sure that when you go in, ask for the big book, because they don't just give it to you. So you got to ask for that, and that's where you get the large format series and all of those selections. But they did a release, and I was able to try that there. But it wasn't aged at all, so it is what it is. But they have like their other like yearly series. I don't know if you know like, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, like Melange Trois or Trois or something like that. I don't know how to
say it either. Melange. I mean, there's Menage a Trois, but I think it's Melange.
Yeah, I think so.
I really don't like that one. I've never.
Oh, it's my favorite.
Oh, I've never cared for it. I drink it. Wow. I'm like, yeah, just not my jam.
Wow, I've been looking for that one again forever.
So many people that loved it, and like especially the series number 3 and I think series number 5, people love those. I tried them both and was like, that's just not me. Yeah.
Hey, different taste buds, right? Like, yeah. But I'm waiting. Like I'm so far out. I'm by DC and they're all the way in California. Maybe they're just not sending them out this way, but or the Total Wines out here just aren't ordering them. But
you can join. They've got the lowest member, like the Reserve or Preservation Society. What are Preserve Society? One of the two. It's a really low tier. Their lowest tier, but you're guaranteed like one Black Tuesday if you stick with it for the year.
And they'll send it to you.
I think you can pick up at the DC office. Check that out. If
yeah,
you want
definitely.
Black Tuesday.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Check that out. If not, send me a DM and maybe we can figure out a trade or something for later on, because that's like why I keep the brewery membership is for Black Tuesday pretty much. Because then I make my rounds and I buy, I've got a buddy of mine that always goes to Huna Days out in Florida.
I don't know who it is.
Their Huna Stout, and you can only get it at that festival, and that's like a yearly retreat for him. And so we have a general agreement that every year we make at least one bottle trade where I give him one, and then I'm like, oh, I found these other things that I think you'll like, and then we meet up and do a couple trades out. So
nice.
Yeah. That's the part of the craft beer world that I just like. I haven't yet like dipped my toes into yet. Is the trading? Trades? Yeah, it's so. And the only reason I haven't is because I'm intimidated by the process of shipping. Like the Beers and Beards podcast. Shout out to David and Gary. Guys are super cool. Beers and Beards. They actually hit us up and were like, "Hey, you guys we want to do like a trade thing, and we talk about the beers you send us. You talk about the beers we send you, whatever." So hopefully I didn't blow up their spot just now, but it's just like the sending, the delivering of the beer. It's like, number one, beer weighs a lot, so postage is expensive, and you can't legally send beer. Like, you're not supposed to, so you have to label it with live yeast samples. That's what people usually say to do. Technically not lying, right? And you have to package it a specific way, ziplock all your bottles and stuff like that, which I typically buy cans primarily, but it just that process seems intimidating to me. But like, I need to get into that, because there are breweries, and like there's one specific brewery, I'm sure you've heard of it, Al. It's called Drecker Brewing in North Dakota. Have you heard of them?
I don't know it.
Okay, you should look up their Instagram page, because they have the most ridiculous, and if you guys, I know obviously Reese, you're into the sours. They have the most ridiculous sours on the planet. Like, there's these smoothie sours that are like super thick. I think they even have a line that's actually called Thick. But like, if you pour them to the glass, they're just like spilling over because they're just so full of like fruit and like over the top.
Didn't you have one? Didn't you review one?
No, I've never had one. They're in North Dakota and they don't distribute this far. So the only way I could get one is to either go to like a bottle shop that gets them, or somebody mentioned to me that Total Wine, you could actually order beers like through Total Wine. I'm not sure if that's. I've never tried it. I'm sure whoever said that wasn't lying, but
You can.
I've never tried it, so maybe I should try that first. But I've had people offer like to trade some before, but I've just never like jumped into that. So Al, how much experience do you have in that world?
I have shipped beer a couple of times, but it's mainly been I haven't done it in a trading sense. It's mainly been for, I've had friends of mine that were like, oh, that I was just excited to get some beers out to them. And then I went to California and then brought back beers from them later on. I just wanted to get them to for like an occasion or something. I was trading here locally. I was never one of the big guys into it. I like it, but it once you get into that world, it can be consuming. And I just saw it and was like, okay, all I really want is like one of these things. So what can I get from one of these? So I would go like, in search of one of these. Here's my list of what I got. Let me know what do you think is fair? I think the hardest thing for me was always figuring out what's the fair part, because people want to go by price, and I understand that. But sometimes I'm like, well, this beer I know costs this much, but I can only get it once a year.
Right.
And I know that you're going to get this beer more often because it's a seasonal, but it's brewed for a longer time than this beer. So it was always funky to try to figure out like what is fair for fair. There's not like a beer calculator of like, well, your terrapin is equal to this Russian River is equal to this, but it's not as many, like brewery beers or something like. So it's that's what held me back at first from like really getting into trading. And then also like I like the beer that I have. Like once I get them, like I don't know if I want to trade. Like I actually really like what I have.
Yeah.
And there are times where I'm like I want to trade off things like the Black Tuesday. I like getting extra of that because I know I'll get a good return on my investment if I bring home several bottles of that. I know that I'm going to trade off for that and get a really good return on that.
Yeah.
So there are times where I've bought things and gone like, that didn't get me what I wanted. So I'm like, all right, I think that the people that are into it really love it. And once you get into it, it can be a great source to try out new things. But the beer world is so much more open than what it was even several years ago. At least here in the DFW market, like we're getting things now that we were not able to. Like I remember trading for high lie or whatever it is, high al at from Cigar City. Now that's standard here. I traded for 2 Heart. Now we get it. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll get it some point in time. I'm not too worried about it. There's so many good beers around here, even just at a local level. I'm really not worried about missing the next big thing. My FOMO has dropped so much because I'm like, I will either get it or I will have something that tastes pretty good anyways.
I feel like I wonder what kind of beers we have around us, like in our neck of the woods, like my neck of the woods, because I'm in Northern Virginia, AJ's in Virginia Beach. I'm just like wondering what breweries do we even have around us that would be, attractive like that? Do we have any breweries like that? I mean, Dogfish, I live by Adroit Theory, and like Dogfish Head isn't too far. Hardywood, maybe. Like, I have no idea what else there is out there.
I'm trying to think in this market. I don't think we have anything in this market that gets that much like fame and attention, but
not like Black Tuesday, because that one's.
Well, and it's funny because Black Tuesday now, like it doesn't trade as well as it used to because people have it. It was really popular, and then a lot of people traded for it, and now it's like meh. And I really, honestly, beyond the people that like how you're like, I saw your eyes kind of light up. Oh, Black Tuesday, blah blah blah. Like if you were really wanting it, like I'd be more than happy to set something up. But here in DFW, it got flooded, and now it's like bad people have Black Tuesday around, and I'll bring it to like bottle shares. And people, it'll dry out. The bottle will be done by the end of the night, but it doesn't draw the same attention as it used to, and I'm fine with that because I really love it. I'm all about drink what you like. Like if you like it, amen.
Right.
I'm just happy that the brewery had that success because I feel like they do a really good job. I feel like they're very creative and they're always bringing something new to the table. Some of them are kind of weird, but
Oh, dude, yeah. The brewery, I feel like there's a lot of love it and hate it. My sister, not a fan. I can bring anything home from them and to her. And she's like, yeah, you know. And then there's other people out here, like in DFW area, that I've brought things that I've been like, man, not in my idea. And they're like, oh, if you ever get that bottle again, I can't wait to have it. Yeah.
It all comes down to taste, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got different taste buds, which I get.
Right.
But
Yeah.
a company like that, giving them resources and God, it'd be awesome to like interview those guys someday and figure it out. But they don't have like a very strong social media presence. Everything seems to be like closed doors. Like you got to be a member to get the information.
I know that Tyler's not at the brewery anymore. He's now working on a wine beer hybrid project, I believe, up near Sonoma.
Oh wow.
The last time I read something about him, he was working on that, or I listened to a podcast about him. He was working on that. And so he's like, I call up the brewery, make sure it's still running, but I don't think he's in Anaheim anymore. I think he's up near Sonoma. I could be off, but doing something like that, which I think is really cool to hear somebody trying something new. But the brewery has always been a fun place to just experiment and try something different, especially in that area where they were in Anaheim, because they were kind of like one of the destination breweries for a while. Because I mean, I grew up in I don't know if you guys know Southern California, but I grew up in like the Long Beach area. So
Okay.
Anaheim Disneyland is like a 20-30 minute drive from where I was living. And I remember going to Bottle Logic way early on and like going, oh, this is cool, but I didn't have anything that I really liked. They were still just kind of like, oh, okay, or what is it? There was a place that used to make a hibiscus saison, and that was all they were known for until they started making hazy IPAs, and then like it exploded.
Is there a specific beer that you've never had that you've always wanted to get your hands on?
Not right now. I've really gotten out of the game of like searching out newer, crazier beers and the fun ones that are like kind of way out there. I've got a couple of Westies that I love, and then bottle shares. Really, that's my favorite thing to do because then I get to try so many. The Fou or Faux Fru, whatever it is from Cantillon. That is, I think, one of my all-time favorite beers, top 5 for sure.
Okay.
It's an apricot sour, and it is delightful and just amazing. And if I can get a bottle of that ever again, I will pay way too much money for that beer because I loved it. It was one of those beers that just like it spoke to me. It was just perfect on so many levels.
Okay.
I have destinations now that I'm more like I want to get there. I was planning a trip to Belgium for March of 2020. That did not happen.
Oh man.
I remember it was October 2019. My wife's like, look, babe, you've been wanting to go there. And I was working for American Airlines at the time. And she's like, just go. I'm like, okay, March, I'm planning it. I'm doing it. We're doing it. And nope.
And
yep.
So
same thing happened to us. We were planning it was going to be in later in 2020. It was like September. And I was going to go with my wife, my brother, his girlfriend, my mom, and stepfather. We were all going to go
to Belgium.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we all.
Oh man.
We had been planning it for like 2 years.
Wow.
And so.
Did you have a brewery hit list?
More like a location hit list. The one place I wanted to go was West Letter, and like that was I had to go there and try it. That was. Other than that, it was just like we wanted to go to Amsterdam. We wanted to go to a couple other places,
Gotcha.
To like see the sights and whatnot. But yeah, didn't happen.
Yeah, Westy is one of those places. I really want to actually go to the Abbey because, the Abbey, they don't really serve the beer there. You can buy it, but there's a cafe across the street from the Abbey where they sell and serve all the beers that they have there.
Oh, okay.
And I really want to go to the Abbey because it's not that I've ever felt like I wanted to be in the monastic life, but I love that idea of work, prayer, fellowship. And I've always just wanted to go to an actual working, monastery, and just see what it is like. Because I know the brothers there are very reclusive. Like they don't care that you like their beer. Like they're like, okay, it's an ends to a means for them.
Yeah.
They really are like, whatever. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah.
Like it keeps us going,
Yeah.
but you're never going to get like an interview with one of the brothers. Like it's very difficult to do. They're actually, I feel like they're more annoyed at how popular their beer is than anything else. But I would love to just wander the grounds, because when I've looked at their website, they have like a prayer walk. They allow you to listen into their like worship session. So it's a cappella chanting, and call and response between the brothers. And I'd love to sit in on that and then go enjoy beer and awesome things that they make.
They're probably upset because like everybody's coming for the beer, not for the faith. They're like,
yeah, I'm
on.
very sure there's a portion. I'm sure there's one brother there that's like, can we just stop making this beer?
If can we make them pay in prayers? Okay. You owe 3 prayers and 50 cents. Okay. Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, we're hard to believe we're already at the 50-minute mark. We try to keep it to about an hour, but I kind of want to talk to you about you. So you've got your podcast, the I Know Nothing About Beer podcast. Again, you guys out there listening, make sure you check out Al's podcast. Very similar to ours, I would say, in that we've been interviewing a lot of breweries and a lot of like suppliers and things like that. And like I mentioned, I listened to your interview with Nick from Tex Malt. And really cool. Like we interviewed Sebastian from Epiphany Craft Malt, which is in North Carolina.
Oh, cool.
And if you get the chance to talk to him, man, I would highly recommend it. Sebastian was super cool and has so much experience coming from Germany and stuff. But so you do that, but you also have this other page that the stay-at-home dad lifestyle.
Dad Domesticus.
Yes. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that. Like what inspired you to kind of start that Instagram?
Okay, so I worked at American Airlines for about 4.5 years. With COVID, I saw the writing on the wall for my job. Now, the thing that they were saying is we can't fire anybody because they got all that government money. Okay. But they said, hey, look, October's going to come and you can do one of two things. You can either say, I'll take this nice little package out, or if at the end of October we need to make a cut, like, hey, we're doing major cuts. And so I decided I would just take the out.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I were, because, we were paying for 2 kids in daycare, and it was the same amount as I was getting paid. $100 less than what I was getting paid.
Dude,
and so it was like, all right, what are we doing here? And my wife and I had we had about a week. This is like real marriage. We had a week-long conversation, what do we do? And it ended up being like, Allan, you've got this stupid, crazy amount of energy. Go do something with it. And I thought, well, let me have some fun, and try something just way out there. I've got to, I've got the time to try something new. So I decided to do Dad Domesticus.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like my journey in being a stay-at-home dad. And it's really weird because I didn't realize how, like, I've done not video production, but I've done some light editing. I've done audio editing, but this YouTube is a whole other beast. And so some videos hit a little more than not. I play guitar, not very well, but I do play. And so I wrote a song about getting hit in the balls by my kids, which I think every dad can relate. It's called Ballad of a Father's Pain and / Hit Me in the Balls song. And that one's been fun, but it's also just like I did a review of like of a not a cart, but like of a wagon. I've done, a video on like why I left my job. Really, it's just this outlet for all this creative energy I have, but also just being honest about what it's like being a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah.
You know, um, not that being a stay-at-home dad and stay-at-home mom the jobs are fairly similar, but I think that there's what I don't like is like you get the stay-at-home dad. Oh, that's so sweet. I'm like, no, stay-at-home moms also. Oh, that's so sweet as well. Like there's just weird differences that you get to see once you're in that position. Now I was an educator before, so it's not anything new for me to be around like little kids all day long. But my wife and I do have what we call the tap out after dinner. It's just like, babe, tap out, go. I got them for at least a little bit, and then I start to work on whatever I'm going to be doing with either my podcast or Dad Domesticus. So we kind of said, let's give Dad Domesticus about a year. August, that'll be up, and see how that goes, because some videos I don't know, but they just keep getting views. It's like every day I get 5 to 12 views on 1 or 2 videos. Some videos I thought would be great crash, and I'm like, all right, cool, never doing that thing again. So,
yeah, that's cool, man. I can definitely feel your pain when it comes to getting hit in the balls.
Oh, dude. Man, I have been on the ground. I had one time where my little girl, I was on the couch and she wanted to get up. And so I picked her up by her arms, but then she decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take my knee, shove it between his legs, and then use that as a leverage point to like pick myself up. And I was out.
Yeah.
And I was on the couch. I don't know how long. And I was like, babe, this is not good. No.
And the females, you gotta love them. They'll just never understand.
I mean, I'm sure that
really
would not
hurt
be good to them as well. But the writing that song was very cathartic. Yeah. There's a part in the song where my voice cracked because I was just having too much fun with it. And I was like, I'm gonna let it just be. We're just doing it. We're just gonna let that go in there and just keep going. So I've got that song. I've got a couple other just fun, stupid things. I've got a couple others that I've got in the the back of my mind. I would love to do a Weezer parody of In the Garage, but talk about it from the perspective of being a dad. In the garage, my kids don't bother me. I can listen to what I want. I do my projects, things like that. Yeah. So
good. You have to have your own space. For me, it's this desk. This desk right here is my sanctuary. It's like there's no clutter. There's no toys. I don't allow the kid. I feel bad sometimes. They come over here and they just want to touch the keyboard and do. I'm like, nope. You cannot touch the keyboard. You can't touch the mouse.
This is not a toy.
You can't sit in my chair.
Daddy's.
Yes,
this is a no-fly zone.
Yeah, like this is the one space I've got in the house. You can't even get in. You can't even look at it. Don't look at it.
Don't even look at it.
Yeah,
stay away, child. Go away.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I applaud you for taking the opportunity to do something cool like that, and hopefully, Corona stuff. Really, I hope that your fun thing. I mean, like that's like this podcast. Like we never expected it to be a blowout success, and it's been a slow growth sort of process for us. But it's important to do things that are fun and that you just enjoy. And I work for quote unquote the man in a sense, and Reese does too, and like in like the corporate America sort of environment. And it's a sustainable working job. It's great. I get to work from this desk every day. But it's like,
this is the dream right here.
This is the passion, This is the passion. We're sitting here talking about craft beer of all things, right? Like, come on.
Well, I'll never forget when this is how I knew I needed to get into beer in a way. My wife and I were newly married. I think we were 3 months into being married, and I am the extrovert out of us two. If you can't tell that already. I want like Friday night, like let's go do something. Let's go try new restaurants, go try a new bar. This is especially before kids. Like, we didn't know how good we had it at that time. And there was a Friday night. She just looked at me. She goes, "You need another job. You need another job that works on the week. You just need another job. Like you have way too much energy for me. Go away." And I was like, okay, let me get another job. And that's when I started working at Wade's. And I feel like the I Know Nothing About Beer podcast has been part of that for me. It allows me this outlet. It allows me if nothing else, an excuse to dive into something I love learning. And you never know who's going to say yes on a podcast.
Yeah.
I've asked so many different people that I was like, I'm just going to throw this cold call out and just see what happens. And I get their phone. I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm talking to you. The Good Beer Matters guy. What's his name? Oh, I forgot his name. He's so cool. I love his podcast. And I just sent him a random email. I was like, yeah, I'd love to be on your podcast. I'm like, whoa. You're like, I mean, he's got like actual numbers on his podcast. So
yeah. You just had somebody from what's your latest episode? I'm drawing a blank right now. Sean from no, sorry. Man, what? Darren from Fermentable.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. It's a software for brewers, right?
Yeah, he made up a software that it's literally just meant for like brew houses, because everybody loves the romantic thought of being a brewer and like making up recipes and all that. Really, that's like the smallest part of your job. It's like, okay, hey, wait, how much tax do we have to pay off the beer we just made? And so this is a software that helps you keep track of all that, instead of, because if you go to breweries, you'll see like a clipboard on the fermentation tanks and like all that. That's what they're recording. It's like how much liquid is in this thing. It's also all the notes about like what the beer is doing. Because if you're not taking notes like that, you could run into tax problems and run into problems of like, hey, we're not making the beer the same way. What's going on?
Yeah.
And so his software just kind of takes all that note writing and puts it into one program, which is really cool. But why I love talking to him was because it was such a fun time learning about all those things in the brewery that we don't really talk about on beer podcasts. So inventory, like how much of a pain is it to keep inventory? Because you're just like, oh yeah, you got to keep this, and then yeast have to be cold. Plus you've keeping your hops in there, trying to keep everything organized. He was like the manager over all the brewers for BJ's in from San Diego all the way up to like central California. So he was the brewer that was overseeing all those brewers. And so he was looking at brewing as in a corporate sense, which is kind of weird, because he had to develop recipes that would work across all of BJ's brewing machines. They're not all the same, like exact same standard. So he had to figure out like what are the equations of like, if you have this, here's how much hops you're going to add into this beer using this equipment, because it's different at each BJ's.
Right.
So he was really interesting to talk to. It was really just like one of the better deep dives into brewing that I've had.
What do you mean by tax when you say tax?
So you get taxed on how much beer you make.
So you're talking like financial tax?
Yes, financial tax.
Okay, I thought that's what I thought, but okay, the context of it made it sound like it was something related to like the beer being used up, but okay, yeah. So he's doing tax software then. So he was a head brewer that got into finance and also IT. No. That's insane.
No. He's not. He doesn't do tax. He doesn't do tax stuff, but you have to record that stuff for your taxes at the brewery.
Oh, okay. Got it.
But he later got into, once he was done doing brewing, he got into IT, and then he was like, well, what if I could combine the two? Because I know the brew house so well, and I know software so well now. How can I combine the two? And so that's why he made the software, because he's like, if I was a brewer, here's what I would want to have.
Yeah, make life easier. And well, it's probably a good deal for him, right? If he's
I mean, and I remember just talking to him, just going like, okay, that is all the stuff that like I took for granted looking at it. Like I knew what all the stuff was he was talking about, but hearing him talk about it in such an in-depth way made me go, oh yeah, that's right. You do have to worry about that. And well, what about this? What about, ordering? He's like, well, we have a part that like will auto order it for you and things like that. So it's really cool. I mean, go listen to the episode, have fun. I mean, I've talked about it enough, so you don't.
He's got an app for that.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing. He was really fun to talk to. He's got a really interesting story as well. Well, he's a NorCal guy, so everybody from NorCal has an interesting story.
That's awesome.
All right.
Yeah, well, I definitely want to check that one out and encourage everyone out there to check it out as well. I think that's been the funnest thing for us too with this podcast is just learning about stuff
Mm.
that is underappreciated, I would say, by most people who enjoy craft beer. Like there's millions of people out there who just enjoy craft beer, who go and buy it from breweries or buy it off the shelf. They love it. You know, they can tell you what their favorite beer is, but they couldn't tell you the first thing about how malt is created or how yeast is harvested or, you know, hops, how they're grown and things like that. Like that's one of the coolest things we've done, you know, is talking to those sorts of people to learn that side of the business. So I can't wait to just talk to more people. Like, you know, there's another maltster that we're hoping to get on the show pretty soon. And he's like, yeah, I saw you already talked to Sebastian from Epiphany. He's like, so let me know what I can do to keep it fresh. And I'm like, it's not even about that. It's just like everybody's got a different perspective, a different way of looking at things, a different technique or different, you know, experiences. So it's like we could talk to 100 maltsters and still learn something new from each one, you know. So
Well, you know, and I feel like the more that you learn, and I'll say this about beer, but it applies to just about everything. The more that you learn about beer, the more you can appreciate what is going on in this glass. You know,
yeah, exactly.
you know, from the history, the science, the politics of it. You know, I did a podcast with the Dismantle podcast where I got to talk about prohibition, the church's role in prohibition, and it made me realize, like, oh yeah, this was illegal. You
Yeah.
know, not that long ago here in America. And it was such a great way to like appreciate the beer that you have, because it's like, yeah, I'm holding something that like would have gotten me arrested, you know, almost 100 years ago.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Mhm.
That is interesting to think about. Yeah, you just take things like that for granted. For instance, I'm wearing a tattoo shop T-shirt. I have tattoos. Like tattooing in Virginia Beach, I think was only made actually legal like in the last like 2 decades. Like it hasn't even been that long.
What?
Yeah, in Virginia Beach, like you weren't allowed to have a tattoo shop, and I think it was like almost like maybe like 15 years ago or something like that.
Yeah.
Just stuff like that you take for granted all the time, and
Yeah.
beer 100% one of those things. But I think you know we're a little over the hour mark, and I can't believe it's gone this fast, man. It's been super fun to talk to you, but I think
Yes.
we're ready to wrap it up. But any last plugs you want to throw out there, Alan? Your socials, your podcast, any upcoming episodes, things like that.
Man, thank you. First off, thank you so much for having me on. This has been just a fun hangout.
Yeah.
I was cleaning a garage today, and all I kept thinking was, I get to just hang out and have a beer later on tonight. I get to hang out and have a beer tonight. So this has been a blast. Thank you guys so much for having me on. You can find me on all the socials. I'm most active on Instagram at Al the Brewer. Every once in a while I'll throw out a tweet, but really it's Instagram. You can find me on Facebook as well. Again, just go to Instagram. althebrewer@gmail.com. My dad Domesticus. If you go on YouTube, I don't have enough subscribers to do youtube.com/dad Domesticus. But if you want to subscribe and help me get along there, you just search Dad Domesticus, or if you put the Ballad of Father's Pain, you should be able to find me there as well. Please, if you want to put something up like link to me, link that video, just because it's so stupid.
How about this?
That's
Can
my
we close
stay-at-home
this
dad
episode?
channel.
Can we close this episode with that song? Can we just play it? Just take this episode out
Have
with that
fun.
song.
But you could find me at Dad Domesticus on all the socials as well. But yeah, have fun. Play the song, man. Yeah,
That's
do it.
awesome.
Oh, dude, definitely. We're it's gonna play.
And we're gonna do that 100%. Well, man, we appreciate you coming on, and glad we connected. I'm glad you're on our Discord, so we'll keep in touch 100%.
Please do.
And as always, for all you guys out there listening, we appreciate you tuning in to another episode. Ask that you please like and subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify, and then of course come say hi to us on Instagram and Twitter.
Thanks, guys, for listening, and here's Ballad of a Father's Pain. Enjoy.
See you guys.
Peace.
Bye, guys.
Disclaimer. This song is really stupid and said the word balls a whole lot. Playing with my kids, making memories. A simple little slip. Now I'm down on my knees. How could this hurt so bad? Coming from a child so small. Hit me in the balls. Hit me in the balls. I lost my breath and my world begins to fall. What's this now I see? My family's laughing at me. I'm on the ground curled up. I should have worn a cup. I can hear my groin telling me time to get a bag of peas. They keep hitting me in the balls. They keep hitting me in the balls. Lost my breath. World is in the fall. Now I'm hurting deep inside with a pain I can't quite describe. And if my kids keep kicking me, save money on my vasectomy. Oh my balls, oh my balls, oh my balls. Keep hitting me in the balls. Keep hitting me in the balls. They keep hitting me in the balls. Why do they keep hitting me in the balls? Oh my gosh. Could you just stop, please? Stop hitting me in the balls, please. Oh, where's that bag of peas?